So I'm here today with Aaron Marvel. You're a seminary student, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Now we're going to be talking a little bit about taking God out of America and what different roles Christians play in this, and the roles that our government plays in this as well. With your degree that you want to go into and the ministry that you feel called to go into, how do you feel with your role as a pastor that you have concerning this issue?
Well, I think it's very important that a pastor, even from the pulpit, is able to just kind of educate the people who are at church, the congregation, of what the principles are of the matter. And a lot of times, some pastors will go off and they'll teach politics of vote for this person, don't vote for this person. I don't think it necessarily needs to be like that to get godly people in government, but I think what a pastor can do even from the pulpit is teach people the principles and even what they should be concerned about. And as they live that Christian life, it kind of just overflows naturally into whether it's how they vote or how they live, which will allow God to come back in America, which I think.
Now, with your perspective then as a future pastor, what do you feel like is the role that the government has played in attempts to take God out of America?
I think it's been unfortunate just to see different attempts take place, and even how we've turned from where we've started. I mean, you think of 200 years ago, when America was created, it's very much biblical based. It's very much Christianity was the principles of the Christian faith really kind of guided the nation. And now as we kind of slowly progress, we're kind of turning away from God. And so we've kind of accepted the blessings of God, and we still want God to bless us, but now we're kind of turning away from God, just keeping Him out of different areas in government, and try to just legislate God out of schools and various things like that, which is very unfortunate. And I think it's really a part of our just sinful nature where we want the blessings of God. And even as Christians sometimes, we want God to bless us, but at the same time, we don't want to be held accountable for what we do. And so it seems, at least with America, that we're okay with God blessing us, but when we're held accountable, we're not so comfortable with that. And so that's why we try to get God to the side and just out of the way, not really think about, so we can kind of do what we want to do with no accountability.
So how do you feel our country has changed as a result of these attempts of taking God out of America?
Well, the schools is a big one where, especially with prayer, then even how evolution is taught only and that creation not even looked at, and just different things in the school district has really moved away. But even in the realm of sports, it's an issue that's there. And it's not so much the government controlling it, but it's just even culture. Right now in the NFL, Tim Tebow is a very controversial person, whereas he is very vocal about his Christian faith. And he's very much living that faith. And people, they don't want him talking about God during sports. Like when we watch football, we want to watch football and not hear about God and these things. And so even, not just the government, but even the culture is pushing God off to the side. And I think it really comes down to we don't want, again, to be held accountable. And when someone like Tim Tebow is living that faith and it's real to him, he's acting on it, it makes us wonder, well, is this the truth? Is he really believing that? And we almost want him to fail so we feel better about ourselves. But when he's living like that, we suddenly feel condemned about our own sins that we fall in.
Absolutely. Now, with that, the various different things that you were talking about that has changed and the roles that our government has played in that, what do you feel needs to be changed in our government or in our country to really help us to draw closer to Christ and get back to what our country was really founded on originally?
I mean, as far as what we can do as Christians?
Yes, absolutely. Our role that we play in that.
I think to answer that, I mean, very much we are first citizens. And here in America, we do have a lot of blessings, freedom of speech, being even to vote. Many countries, have those. And so I think starting as Christians really need to step up and first off, be good citizens. Even how we vote. It's not simply voting just for a small issue, but we really look at, well, what's the morals of this person we're voting for. And so I think even that, and even when issues rise up, whether it's with our congressman or senator, be able to be vocal and express what we are feeling and how we respond to that, whether it's writing letters or making aware our opinions, because government isn't so interested in people who aren't willing to take a stand when it comes to votes and things like that. It's very important. But besides all that, I think more importantly for America, just to get back to God and for God to really be back at the center, it really needs to start in people's hearts. And this can't be done by the government. It can't be done by passing laws or bills, but it needs to be done by the Christian really acting like a Christian and start living as Jesus Christ wants us to. And this is where the gospel comes in, and it's not just simply something that we preach, but something that we live. Christians, I think we can be guilty of, we look at all the problems out there and we say, well, this is so bad out there, and this is bad too, and America's messing up. But we need to start being active and even doing good, of showing what is the Christian faith really about, so people can see that and truly come back to God. Because once the American people come back to God, the government will follow. It'll follow where the people go. And we kind of get in our mind that government needs to lead this. I really think it starts in the hearts of people.
Absolutely. So do you feel like this is one of the underlying issues in our culture today? Do you feel like this is a majority of the problems that we're having, or do you feel that there are other things that play into this?
I think it's a majority of the problem, and I think understanding even our sinful tendencies is important. Of, like I said before, we don't want accountability, and so we want everything God can give us, but there seems to be a cycle that goes on here where the government is able to push God out of the picture, as far as out of schools with different laws and such. But at the same time, the America people also are allowing that to happen, where suddenly our morals are declining, which allows the government to do these things, which leads to more morals declining. And it's kind of a vicious cycle, because 100 years ago, things were black and white. It was very much, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. And now we're getting to the place where it's more of my opinion and what I feel is right. And so I think the big thing is not just the government and what they're doing, but it's even the culture and the way it's going. And just it's a cycle that will continue until something drastic happens.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing your heart and your testimony and your passion ultimately for this subject. So thank you so much for letting us interview you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Really a part of our just sinful nature, where we want the blessings of God. And even a Christian, sometimes we want God to bless us, but at the same time we don't want to be held accountable for what we do. Besides all that, I think more importantly for America, just to get back to God and for God to really be back at the center, it really needs to start in people's hearts. And this can't be done by the government. It can't be done by passing laws or bills, but it needs to be done by the Christian really acting like a Christian. Government isn't so interested in people who aren't willing to take a stand when it comes to votes and things like that. It's very important. I mean, you think of 200 years ago, when America was created, it's very much biblical based. It's very much Christianity was the principles of the Christian faith really kind of guided the nation.